True wisdom is not acquired by the mere accumulation of data. Let me say that again. True wisdom does not come from simply acquiring and accumulating data. Now, by wisdom, we mean really understanding something at a deep level, really seeing inner qualities, seeing the less obvious surface relationships, seeing a big or bigger picture. And the assumption, of course, is that that's a really good thing. So if wisdom doesn't just come from accumulated data, just myriad bits of information, where does it come from? Wisdom comes from encounters in dialogue with other people. It comes from self-examination. In other words, wisdom comes from experience and reflection on our experiences. Now, I think those kind of sound like words of wisdom, but I have to admit I'm paraphrasing Pope Francis. So we can get lots of information and data points from technology, from social media, from all kinds of sources in the library, and it's very useful. And we can put it to good use, but sometimes we can be overwhelmed by it. There's too much of it. It can start to dull us, and we get to a point where we're going to turn it off, or we're just going to watch cat videos. So we can kind of end up with sort of a set of contrived emotions, not really true emotions, contrived emotions that we seem to gather up from things we see online or experience in a vicarious way. Now, as a teacher and a campus minister here at the college, I make it my business, I think it's my vocation to help students come to some wisdom. So I try to do that by my teaching, do it by talking a lot, and by modeling things, doing things that will help students come to some wisdom. So of course, technology helps us prepare for wisdom, and we can accumulate information, but we have to get up and get out. We have to get out of the dorm, out of bed, out of the library, out of our living rooms, out of our neighborhood, maybe out of the country. So I'll tell stories of ways we learned things, one about the Bronx, and we learned things about Ecuador. We learned indoors, or from the library and technology and machinery and media, that the Bronx is the poorest urban county in the United States, that it has very high unemployment, that out of 62 counties in New York State, it's the least healthy county, ranks number 62. Has a low educational attainment, a high unemployment level, a low median income, a very low rate of home ownership. Lots of data points. Indoors, or from research, we learned about Ecuador. We learned that it's very poor. It's one of the poorest countries in South America. We learned that it has very poor infrastructure. It has very poor sanitation in some parts of the country. We learned it's on the equator. Now, what did we learn from our experience of the Bronx and from Ecuador? In the Bronx, we learned what it's like to have to go to a food pantry at the end of the month because there's nothing left. We learned what it's like being cold in your rental housing because the boiler's broken or there's no oil in the boiler. We learned from children in the 6th grade what it's like to only read at a 2nd grade reading level. We encountered young people who began to think possibly, just maybe, possibly, they could be the first child in their family to go to college. In Ecuador, we realized and learned what it's actually like to have 12 hours of light and 12 hours of dark because you're on the equator. So at 6:30 every day it's dark, and at 6:30 every morning it's light. We learned what it's like to try to walk or drive or ride on unpaved, rutted roads with no sidewalks. We experienced what it's like having to wait for the water truck to come and deliver water to a barrel in front of your house, and to only be able to take a shower every 2 days because the water in the cistern that was delivered by the water truck will run out if everybody takes a shower or two every day at the equator, where it's really hot for 12 hours every day. We learned that most people have to have 2 jobs to survive. And we learned that under no circumstances, in the places we stayed, can you ever flush the toilet paper. Just think about that for a minute. So we learned from experience with people, not just from data. We learned from dialogue, from exchanges and conversations with the people we were with. We learned from reflection, self-examination on our experience, what we thought before, what happened in our experience, and what did we gain from that? What did we learn from that? We began to see those relationships, the less obvious meanings, a bigger picture. So we learned from our experience. We learned that wisdom comes through experience. Wisdom comes through other people. And we were, in fact, wiser because we realized true wisdom is not the mere accumulation of data. So if you seek wisdom, don't just accumulate data, accumulate experiences. Thank you.